Hi everyone, welcome back to Casual Watch Talk Live. Well, we've got a really fun show for you. We're going to do a classic hit or miss show, but I am joined by quite an esteemed panel here. I'm joined by my co-host Jason from watchhauling.com, Todd, who's not playing our judge today, but we've got Patrick from Pocket Watch Time, and we've got Pete from Not So Obvious Watch YouTube channel, who's going to be a subject for part of the video today. But Pete has a great channel. You should subscribe to it. A really interesting take on watch collecting and watches in general. So thanks for joining us, Pete. Well, shall we do a wristwatch check? Pete, do you want me to start with you? Should you wanna, as the guest, do you want to do a quick wristwatch check?
Yeah, sure. Yes. Sorry, everything's a bit weird with my sound. It's all a bit out of sync. So I'll get into it. I'll just pretend I can't hear myself. So what I have is a Dornbluth and Zona. I'm not sure if I can do this. No, that's not working.
There you go.
There we are.
Ooh.
So this is a Dornbluth and Zona independent. It's an independent German brand that does a really highly decorated version of a UTS movement. Hang on a sec. So,
hang on.
Can you?
Ooh, a little bit blurry.
There it is. There it is.
That's what it looks from the back, and that's it from the front.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, oh, they're beautiful watches.
Yeah, so that's a like I said, small handmade independent watch company. Comes out of a little company with about 8 people, and that's a world timer and GMT watch, which I just bought and absolutely love it.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Patrick, what's on your wrist?
Well, in honor of a mostly dive watch themed show, I wore my only dive watch, the Tudor Black Bay 58-925, on a rubber strap because dive watches should be able to go in the water.
That's the silver cased one for anyone that's not familiar.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Sterling silver.
Todd, do you want to take it next?
I'll do it next. So, I just got this one back from my one of my guys that does a lot of my restorations for the speed timers. So this is a Kakume.
Ooh.
This is a blue one. I had the champagne dial in the collection, and so I finally found a decent Kakume, a blue one that I wanted to get restored. So it just came in the mail today, and so I'm very excited to put this on, and she's doing fantastic.
Oh, awesome. Jason, what are you wearing?
Just wearing my Zodiac Zulu Oscar 9209 Super
nice.
Seawolf. I love this thing.
Yep.
It's grown on me an awful lot. I think it's probably right up there with my Zen for me, but for different reasons.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
And I'll go next. This is a bit of a reveal, I suppose. I've been waiting for so long for this, but I managed to get the old green date just. So yeah, in fact, what I'll do is I'll show a little video of it so you can actually see it, because it's very hard to show the green. This is from earlier at the Rolex AD yesterday. So there you go. My little finally, it took about 6 months. Watches and Wonders. I put my name down after Watches and Wonders. Apparently, I was the first to get this combination. So the smooth bezel Jubilee and cream dial. I'm going to take it as a win. They might have told that the previous 5 guys, but I'm going to take it as a win.
Well, congratulations.
No, thanks. Yes, another Rolex to add to the collection. So I've got the OP and I've got this one. And I think next Explorer 2, but I'm going to do a full review and everything. So
nice.
Rather than take over. Yeah, thanks everyone. Oh, I just put that down. Excellent. Well, should we kick the show off? We're going to do a hit or miss show. And unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to redo the intro. So we're just going to have to do the cat again, I'm afraid. But let's roll the... Well, there we go. So we've picked some watches from, and I'll refresh it. I've been doing good with
No,
intros.
it's good.
I
It's
went
good.
big on Judge Todd one, and now
You know what it is that you can hear the cat purr,
Yes.
like in the headphones, and at first it's like, what is it? Oh, it's a cat.
very important that the cat
Yeah.
purrs. But we're going to do a hit or miss from some of the watches that have been released this week. But we're going to kick it off because Pete's our special guest, and we're going to kick it off with the new Superocean. And this, I have quite a visceral reaction to this watch. I'll perhaps state my opinion and then pass it over to everyone else. There's something about that minute hand that I just can't rationalize it in my own head. It looks like a marshmallow on a stick. I just can't get my head around it because I love the Superocean. The previous Superocean, I thought was one of the not that one. The previous Superocean, I thought was one of the best designed Superocean watches they ever made. Yeah, it looked a little bit like a some similar shape to a Rolex case, but for me, it was just the bee's knees. But that's my opinion. I'll pass it over to the rest. And then, Pete, maybe we'll finish with you because you just did an entire video on this. And then we'll decide. So this is a miss for me. But Jason, should we go to you? And then I'll go to Todd and then Patrick. And then we'll go to Pete because he's had such an interesting take on this watch.
Oh, you're going to the new guy. Okay. So the black and white version, I don't care about the other colors.
Okay.
The black and white version. So, Pete doesn't know me very well, but I'm still relatively pretty new at this, about 3 years in. And this has everything I love about a Navitimer that I didn't want to spend Navitimer money on. And whenever the other guys I'm on the show, they always know that one of my grails is the Zen 903 because it's literally, 66% less than the Breitling Navitimer. And it's basically almost the same thing. And I like Zen. When I saw this version, I thought to myself, okay, Thor's watch. I get Molyneux with it on the minute hand. My only beef with this thing is that I guess I get why the hour. I don't know. Sam, you've influenced me on the hands. I can't unsee it now, but visually, just looking down on it, it gives me that Navitimer aesthetic with the white minute track that I would get on Navitimer, and I think that whole color scheme works for me. But then again, I'm a black and white gray guy. So the other ones, though, I get it. They're fun. But when we're talking, $4,700?
Yeah.
That's not fun to me. I'm not buying a fun weekend beach watch for $4,700.
Yeah, that's the previous one. But I don't know, Todd, what do you think?
So it's a hit for me. I like the black and white one too. I especially like it on the rubber straps. Not so much the bracelet, but the blue and white one, actually, not the teal, but the blue and white one, I thought was a really nice color combination. I'm kind of a sucker for kind of that blue and white color scheme. The bronze one, I'm not into so much bronze watches, but I really, the green and the bronze is a kind of a popular color right now combination it looks good. But understanding where that marshmallow came from in terms of the history, I learned a lot of this on Pete's, YouTube thing, broadcast that he just did. I like the only thing is one of my only issues is the size. I don't know why they went from 36 to 42. Maybe the 42 would fit me pretty well. I'd have to look at the lug to lug. And why did they just use, and Breitling does this a fair amount, even in their Navitimers. Why did they use an ETA movement in this? Why didn't they use one of their other, like an in-house movement? Maybe it saves some money. I don't know. Oh, there it is. Yeah, I like that blue and white. I just like that color scheme.
It's clean.
A whole lot. Yeah, with that blue strap. That looks really dynamite to me. $4,650. Little expensive. Usually Breitling in the past, you could get a lot off, especially when they started dumping them on the gray market. Yeah. I don't know if you can get this if you could get this for like 35, 36, I think that would be a really strong watch.
Yeah, Patrick, what do you think? What are you calling it?
Okay, well, my overall take is I think it's a great improvement over the standard Breitling, because I'm going to make an unpopular comment, and I'm used to unpopular comments. I'm just not a fan of Breitlings at all. I just find most of them really, really boring.
Ooh.
And I think this watch really has a pop with that sort of rehot, and I like the overall aesthetic. I think it's a nice looking watch. I'm a metal guy, so the fact that they made it in a bronze, that would be the only thing that would kind of tilt me over to the maybe I'm interested in it. But I've got 3 complaints. So as I said, I like, but 3 complaints. Completely with you, Sam. That seconds hand is just. I saw an older iteration where they kind of copied and did the snowflake 10 times better. But just that big old square sitting there, and it's just big. Like, even if they made the square a little smaller, I could maybe get away with it, but it's not a small square, and it's not a lot of dial real estate. So I think it's just too much. Second, the rubber strap I love, but for that price point, they really should have done an integrated rubber strap. So the pictures here make it almost look like it is, but if you really look at it, it's just a floppity rubber strap. They should have put some curved lugs on there just to let it really mesh in like a rubber bee, and just make it a high quality rubber strap. And then, like you guys were just talking about a minute ago, the price is a little high for an ETA movement. And, but it is Breitling. It's a big name. So, I can't be mad at them too much. It's definitely more affordable than their normal. But, all in all, will I buy it? No. Do I like it? Yes.
Well, Pete, you did a great video on this. I'll link it in the description down below. But you've got such an interesting take on this watch. We'd love to hear it.
Yeah, I love it. I will be buying it. I did an extended video on it. One thing I should point out is I've got the older Superocean, and I won't be selling it. They are different watches. I'll be having both. I also find it really hilarious that someone who can look at a Cyclops and not just throw up on the watch finds that minute hand hard to deal with. The crystal carbuncle that I just want to squeeze and get all the pus out of every time
nice
I look at a Rolex. I don't understand how people can even live with that. But we'll deal with that later. Yeah, look, I really like this watch. I think that Breitling's. I came into the hobby in around about 2015, and Breitling was nowhere. Breitling was almost a joke amongst the enthusiast community. It was odd for me because I'd sort of I'd not dealt with watches for a long time, and during the sort of the 80s and the 90s, when I'd kind of last thought about Breitling, they were a good brand, and so I was vaguely disappointed to see that they were bad now. But since 2017, so I was prepped to like them. And then since 2017, when they just completely reversed direction, which, by the way, has utterly alienated a huge section of their audience from that time. The people that loved Breitling during the 2010s and during the early 2010s, they're absolutely losing it right now. They hate everything that the company is doing. But I love it. I love this watch. I love that it's not vanilla. It's not the same. I'm glad they're doing something that maybe 60 or 70% of the audience don't like, because it means that the 20, 30, 40% that do will absolutely love it. And I want to go for a brand. I warm to a brand that goes for the corners, doesn't shoot for the middle all the time. And this is a watch that shoots for the corner. And it's going to miss with some people, and that's okay. There's plenty of vanilla out there for you.
Yeah, I mean, you had an interesting point, because you drew the link that it was loosely based on this slow timer. Was it called?
Yeah, it's actually called the slow motion. I consistently misspoke during my video. So that big hand is actually on the original is a minute hand for a chronograph.
Oh, so this center one here.
That is a minute hand for a chronograph.
Oh wow.
And so the idea of the entire watch in the original space was when you're scuba diving, no one cares about the date. So we'll take the date off. When you're scuba diving, no one cares about the hour because you don't track your time by hours. You track your time by minutes. So they have radically de-emphasized the hour and then emphasized the minute, which tracks your duration underwater. With the new one, obviously they didn't want to go for a chronograph, and I kind of get why. That would be a very niche product, a 1 hour chronograph where we just track the minute. So what they did was take the styling cues of that original chronograph minute hand and translate it to the actual minute hand. And as an added bonus, you get a running seconds, which you didn't get on the old one.
Yeah, the old one without a running seconds, that would be a deal breaker for me.
Well, exactly. It's like, congratulations, it's authentic. No one, 4 people in the world will buy it. So apart from that, I like it aesthetically. I like the concentric inner rings. I think I need to see it in real life to really get this. But the watch is really very thin. I mean, it's 12.5 millimeters thick. But if you look down at like even the images, it looks like the watch like plunges into this deep hole, but it can't because the watch is very thin. So there's something really interesting going on there with how they've done the light and shaped everything.
It might be the degrees on the minute, on the inner. I always want to call it a chapter ring, but it's
the Rehort.
Yeah, it might be the angle of that because like my I have a Marathon T-Star, and that thing really is deep because that thing's like 14 millimeters thick. But this thing just looks like at the angle it's at, it just gives off that perception of being deeper.
Yeah, so they've played some really interesting sort of optical tricks with this, which I think are going to make it a really interesting piece in the metal.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I mean, like for a guy like me that's still kind of new, every time I ever saw Breitling before, I was even interested in watches. It was always when I was flying, and it was in what's that magazine they give you, the magazine on the plane. Mm-hmm. It's like Sharper Image, but at 30,000 feet. And I was like, oh man, is that it? Yeah, all I gotta do is get my P51 license, and I could buy a Breitling. And for this, with this being a dive watch and me being a certified desk diver, the first time I saw it, especially the black and white one. I mean, I like a lot of the different colorways, but when I saw that black and white one, I was like, man, this is really interesting. And then people make a big deal about the case, but I mean, if all you're selling primarily, I guess, are aviation type watches, and you want to sell a dive watch, I guess the case is going to have to somewhat look like the most popular dive case that's been around if you want to move some units, right? Or am I way off base with that?
Well, I think with this one, it looks like they've actually departed quite a lot from the old. There's not a lot of shots going around of the case profile, but the little bits you see around there, for example, it's very different to the Submariner case profile.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's as unique as you can get and still be wearable as a dive stash / lifestyle watch.
Yeah. So Jeremy says that he saw some in an AD window yesterday, which is surprising to me considering how much they've heavily used CGI, computer graphic images here, haven't they? I think there's only one that's actually the real watch here. So I wonder quite why they've done that on the Breitling website, but maybe
I don't know. And I must admit, when I was putting my video together, there was one of the things that really surprised me is there are dozens of these watches out there in the world. If you look at the number of people that have done YouTube videos on them and gone hands-on, they've sent these to, I think even Random Rob had one.
Oh, wow.
These things have been everywhere. but there's no photos. No one's taking photos of it and putting it up online. So I couldn't steal anyone's photos for my video. I could only use the press shots from Breitling.
Or use them under the fair usage.
That's the one.
Well, there we go, guys. So that was the new Breitling. You have to let us know in the comments here if you've got any more questions on it. But we've got a few watches to go through. The next one, we've got some watches across the board price wise, but I had to go to the most expensive one because I want to get the panel's opinion on this one because it just blew me away. But this is the soon to be on every rich DJ's wrist. This is the Music Edition AP, which the dial has got this incredible kind of graphic equalizer on it. It comes in a PVD, a white gold, but it's got this incredible no date, of course, so that's straight off my list. But I just think it's so interesting. I don't know what the panel thinks. Maybe I'll just throw it out to the panel here. What, did you see this watch and what do you think of it?
Going in order, or
I'll jump in. I'm ready. I'll always do that. There's two versions. There's one with the kind of the printed dial, and there's another one which is gem set. The printed dial does nothing for me. It looks kind of flat and uninteresting. But the gem set one, that really, really pops. The way the gems sort of catch the light and reflect it, it does carry that. I'm looking at the LEDs of a mixing board. It kind of works better. It's utterly ridiculous, and I'd have to sell everything I own and then probably a child to buy it. But it is, that's the piece for me.
Yeah, I think this is it's just a really interesting design. They're leaning straight into that because it's obviously a lot of musicians wear these offshores, don't they, and things like that. And they just seem to just lean. They're like, okay, bang on the target market that they've got. They've just. I don't know if anybody else has got any thoughts on this one.
I don't know if you can read my comment from yesterday.
Oh.
No, not quite.
No. Is this an April Fool's joke?
Yeah, they're pretty much.
Oh, really?
I wrote on their website, "Is this an April Fool's joke? Wrong month, AP." And because I can't lie, that's absolutely hideous. And,
wow, really?
I don't like one single thing about it, and of course, I'll throw a word out there that might ruin it all for you: Tetris.
That was my immediate response on the printed one. I thought it was a Tetris style.
Yeah. So
yeah,
I mean, it's just beyond silly. I mean, they made their little rainbow one a couple weeks ago, which was ceramic, and it kind of had some color waves through there. And actually, for kind of being silly, I thought it was kind of neat. But this is just too niche, too silly. Just, I said, I don't like anything about it.
It's actually like that Atari game Breakout, I think, is what it really looks like. It's kind of like the Space Invaders, but just where there was a bouncing ball. But I can see the Tetris link as well. Todd, you've been very suspiciously quiet on this one.
Well, okay. So in terms of just construction and cleverness and being different, you go for it, AP. I mean, Black Panther watch, sure, go ahead and do something like that. But I think I'm with Patrick. It's hideous. There's nothing redeeming in this watch for me. I don't even want to know what the price is, especially the gem set one. I had the same reaction though to the Rolex Daytona Rainbow, with the gems too. I mean, John Mayer has one. If John Mayer were to buy this and wear it, I maybe would hate it less. But I mean, it's not now.
Yeah, no, you've got a DJ will buy this like Tiesto or somebody, and that'll be it. Jason, what's your view on it?
I like Tiesto, and if I was him, I'd buy this watch too.
Yeah. No, I like it. Okay, well, that was a little out there one for us, but I wanted to also. Speaking of, this was unplanned. I wasn't expecting to show the Rolex at this time. It just so happened. But Citizen have released a watch that is so blatantly on the nose of a Rolex. I can't remember Citizen ever doing anything like this before, where it's so on. It's like a combination of an OP Rolex, the Oyster Quartz Rolex, and that Tissot PRX. But they've done them in all the different colors as well. There's a yellow one, there's this green one, there's a blue one. I mean, I can't find them on actual Citizen's website, but they're all over eBay. And here's one for $279. It's using the Miyota 8215, which I'm not crazy about, but I guess I'll throw it to the panel. What does everyone think about it being so on the nose of?
I mean, I guess if you can't beat them, join them. So Omega did it with their Aquaterra, and Citizen is now kind of copying. But to me, it would be a little different if they just copied one factor. But like you said, I mean, they stole the PRX Oyster Quartz case and, you know, just threw some wild colors on there. So yeah, it's kind of a blatant steal.
I must admit, I found myself really confused by this watch. I mean, I look at it and I see lots of other bits of watches, and that's absolutely true. But then I'm also looking at the price, and I'm thinking the guy who buys this has never heard of the Oyster Quartz. In fact, I haven't heard of the Oyster Quartz. I had to go look it up when other people started saying it. It's such a inside baseball, old-fashioned Rolex thing. Yeah. Likewise, I find myself thinking the guy or girl who buys this hasn't heard of half the watches we're saying it's ripping off. So I'm wondering is this really an idea of I want to look like this watch, or rather designers sitting around going, what's selling?
Yeah.
Okay, we can see what's going out the door. We're a mass market watch company that's selling a $300 watch. Mm-hmm. Of course we'll sell we'll make what goes out the door.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where, and people, I must admit, I kind of lost it with people saying that Omega copied Rolex on the Aquaterra. I mean, unless you were absolutely deaf, dumb, and blind, people are buying colorful dials. What exactly do you expect a for-profit company to do?
Have you guys ever listened to or read Freakonomics or any of that stuff? I know it's not popular with everybody, but they talk about this stuff with like names and with clothing and how certain things will work and start up at top and it trickles down and it becomes more affordable. And then the majority of people see that because the design works, right? The design elements work. And so like I always joke with these guys about Citizen for all my active duty. You know, primarily it's G-Shock when they're in uniform, but anyone that's trying to buy a watch, like they got to go to a wedding or they have to go to something, and the first thing people always tell me is, oh yeah, I got this really nice Citizen. And the fact is, it is a really nice Citizen. You know, I don't go tell them, well, just so you know, that borrowed 3 style elements from this and from that. No, they're happy with that watch. They like it. They got it for $300, right? And now they're going to find one with a pop of color and wear it all summer, have fun, and then not worry about it. You know what I mean? Like, it's what Citizen kind of does. And I don't know why everybody acts all surprised about it. Like, you know, I'm sure if you took Citizen's gigantic, massive lineup and you really wanted to, you know, nitpick, you would find style elements borrowed from other more in the watch community famous watch designs.
Yeah, I think, but at the moment, I mean, what took me by it was because the last couple of shows where we've been reviewing Citizen, we've been talking about how they've been blazing a trail with a lot of, especially the Eco Drive, dive watches that they've been doing, and some of the other clever like titanium and stuff like that. So it's just quite amusing to see that. Yeah, I mean, Pete's right. This color is now beyond just some of the bit weird Rolex did. Now everybody else is like, oh, actually, maybe color is the new thing, and I suppose that's an interesting part that is kind of moved through the watch world.
It's also not something Rolex did. Rado introduced these colors to us back in 2017, and then Doxa picked it up and ran with it 17, 18, and 19. Breitling had colored chronomats out in 2019, 2020. Rolex was actually quite late to the color dial game.
Yeah.
To me, though, it's not just the color dial, because you're right. Zinn came out with, you know, I think they're 5.6. I don't know what
the 5.56.
5.56, And a lot of color dials are coming out. It's just, to me, it's just the blatant borrowing from everybody else. I mean, they borrowed the Seiko's 4 o'clock crown. They borrowed the PRX case. They borrowed a president-looking bracelet. I mean, it really is just an amalgamation of other things. And as you said, for $300, that's a hell of a watch.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
I'm not, I said, as a critic, because I take great pride in being one thing in this world, and I call myself a truthitarian. Like, if it sounds true, I say it. And the idea is I can like the watch, but I can look at it and just be like, guys, you took that, you took that, you took that. Good for you for doing it and giving it to us at a great price point, but I at least have to say the words.
Yeah,
I actually completely agree with you. I'm never buying this watch because I don't buy homages, but I'm not going to beat Citizen with too much of a stick over it either. Because as I said, it's a $300 watch. Yeah, it's stealing from a whole bunch of people, but the people who buy this watch probably have no idea where it came from.
Yeah. I'd agree with it. And we've got a request here from the audience, which is the Wolbrook Grand Prix. So Wolbrook is a brand that I have a real fondness for because of their skin diver collection. I don't know if anybody's familiar with this. I actually backed them on Kickstarter. This is they're called Wolbrook and Douglas, and long story short, this is the watch that was actually worn by Neil Armstrong. This was one of his personal watches was a Wolbrook, and they discovered this and then they recreated the company. I think it was a French company. It was known as Douglas in the US or Wolbrook everywhere else. They created this skin diver, which has a world timer bezel, and they've been knocking out these inspired by this sort of 60s and 70s divers using Miyota movement. So they just released this Grand Prix, which is pretty nice. Looks like this one's actually going to be a quartz at that price. But they use these beads of rice bracelets. I don't know if anybody else familiar with Wolbrook? What do we think of this watch?
That's pretty snazzy.
Yeah, I like it. I learned a lot about them from you, Sam, when you first got yours. Now, you sold it, right? But
I actually gave it to a friend.
Gave it away.
Okay. Yeah. So it lives in Thailand now. So there's a Brit that lives in Thailand that has it. We actually replaced the movement in it because I had that in Miyota. That's when I realized I didn't like it in the Miyota 282 series was that watch because it's so loud. We replaced it with a clone of an ETA, actually, funny enough.
Yeah, but I like it. I like the dial color. I like the case style. It's kind of a classic. 370. What can yeah.
I'm a sucker for a steel bezel too. Steel
bezel, beads of rice. I like it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, next watch I had up for the hit or miss treatment was, I don't know if anybody's I'll just do an intro to this. I don't know if anybody's watched Adrian at Bark and Jack's done a new kind of podcast thing, and he's got the chap who runs Bamford, and also the chap who I forget his name from Time and Tide, fellow Aussie. I'm going to get shouted at for forgetting his name.
McCutcheon?
But sorry?
Is it McCutcheon?
Yeah, Andrew
McCutcheon. Yeah. So they did this great, if you've not seen it, it's called the Effing Watch Show, EFFING. They did it in one of their houses, not Adrian's, the guy from Bamford. Amazing set, like it's just incredible, and they did a really good job of it. But it got me thinking about Bamford again and what new releases they have. And I didn't realize they released their own mono pusher chronograph, and then I found out this crazy mono pusher chronograph they did with Michelin tires, and the actual band has tire imprint on it. It's a mono pusher chronograph using a Solita movement, and it's like £2,000. And I believe it's forged carbon case as well.
Oh wow!
I don't know what the panel thinks of this. I'm like kind of blown away by it. I thought it looked really good. Oh, I'm not even showing it.
Yeah, I was just saying.
I just thought you were building suspense.
Yes.
No, yeah, there you go. So there's the tire printed strap. It's a mono pusher chronograph, Solita movement. Comes in. They actually do it in multiple different designs, but I think this one's the interesting one, the Michelin one.
Is this a racing watch? Or it's a pilot
Yes.
sport? Okay. See, that's why I wish
Yeah.
Chris was here, because Chris races cars, right? I don't know enough about car racing to know if this is like a guy who actually races cars or the guy who outfits his car to look like he races cars. And then when someone tries to race him, he absolutely gets smoked. So I don't know enough.
Well, actually, maybe I'll start with this. Just when I say Bamford, does everybody know who Bamford is? Or
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
okay, yeah, okay, good. So they originally, if anybody in the audience, they originally started off highly customizing existing watches, Tag Heuers, and all sorts, and they were doing interesting things. So a bit like Artisans de Genève, but for watches that aren't Rolexes, although they did do some Rolexes. But then they started doing their own line of watches. So they originally started off with this Mayfair, which is loosely based on that CIA watch.
Hmm.
And then they did their own GMT. And then they did this B347 watch, which is that Michelin one is one of those, but also they do it in different. They do it in a titanium as well.
Yeah, I quite like it. It's catching that like late 60s, early 70s angled case vibe. There's lots of like there's a lot of watches coming out with that, but it's not doesn't look like another watch. It's just like surfing the same wave. It's funny enough, it's this whole as soon as you see something, you think about the reference to something else. As soon as I saw that band, I just went, "Oh, that's the Chopard Mille Miglia band," because they use I think it's a Dunlop tire tread on that one. That's been around for
Right.
probably 10 years. But then if you're doing and again, this is one of those areas where I think you've got to be careful about beating someone with a stick. You can turn around and go, oh, well, they've clearly copied, Chopard and their tire band. But then you sit back and go, hang on, he's in partnership with a tire company. Of course, that's what the band's going to look like. I mean, what do you want him to do? Actively avoid, referencing his main sponsor.
Yeah.
So I actually, for me, it's a really interesting watch because it makes me think about questions like that. I'm personally ambivalent about forged carbon cases. I'm not sure. Maybe if I lived with one, I'd come to like warm to them. But at the moment, it's not my thing.
Maybe Patrick can speak to the positivity of forged carbon cases.
I mean, the positivity is you don't have to worry about minor scratches, but the negativity is I don't know how robust it's going to last you over the decades. So that's sort of I'm kind of actually as much as I'm a materials guy, I'm a little bit afraid of forged carbon myself, just because too much of it is resin based, and they actually are kind of creating. Usually they start with rings. They're making a forged diamond, which pretty much is the best of forged carbon as a compressed unit. When they make a watch case out of compressed diamond, which because they cook it at such a high temperature, it's black. It would that would be a watch case I'd be all about. But forged carbon,
Hey Patrick, so you like old phones back in the late 90s, early 2000s, the ones that had like the heavily resined back plates and stuff. Those things are starting to melt now. People that have kept them for a long, I don't know why you would, but people have they're starting to melt. Like if you hold them, your hands get wet. Has there been anything like that with carbon that you?
I don't know. I mean, but I said I haven't heard of that. But I mean, I don't know what would happen if your watch came in touch with some acetone or some material cleaner. Would it just melt your watch? So that's just a scary thing that I don't want to have to deal with. So
sounds like a live stream idea, Sam.
Well, yeah. I mean, I've reviewed that foot. Well, it's an injected. The Christopher Ward is injected carbon, and the dial is forged carbon. So I think it's two different processes. Obviously, I think injected carbon's a paste, isn't it? And then the forged is where it's kind of mushed the carbon fiber together, or something. Or it's different strands that they kind of compress. And it's weird having a case that's so light. I didn't get the impression that it's fragile, but I know a lot of the old school Casios all had like a plasticky resin case, didn't they? I don't know what plastic that was made of, but they seem to last for a while.
Well, so I can tell you the old G-Shock cases do not. They're very robust, but they don't stand up to chemical treatment very well.
Right.
We used to get issued them in the Air Force, still do, and I've still got my original one. But through working around aircraft, all that, the sort of the plastic outer case, that's just melted away. It's now nothing but the hard core plastic, which is actually kind of cool. So I've figured out how to get that like the module container, just with it held on by a NATO strap. Unfortunately, the buttons kind of float around. They rely on that PVC to kind of hold them in place.
Yeah. Okay, well, next up on the list then is one of my favorite brands, but Christopher Ward. They've released this new, I don't know if anybody's seen this, the Atoll Special Edition. It's a really good, it's sold out. Oh, well, forget it.
It's because it's turquoise, Sam. It's because it's turquoise.
Yeah, well, they've done a azure blue lacquered dial. And I'd love to see one of these in person, but it looks incredible. And the price that they were doing them at, so this will be a Salita, I'm sure it's a Salita SW200, I'm guessing, movement, but it's just, every watch that they're bringing out at the moment, I personally think they're knocking it out of the park. I like this one. They also bought out a black Aquitaine watch, GMT, with to go along with their range. They had a white one and now they have a black one. But yeah, this one's starting off at $600. I thought it was an absolute bargain.
Yeah,
that's why I talk about the. Oh, go ahead, Patrick.
I was going to say, that's a beautiful watch. I said I love that dial. Then that price is actually so good. It makes me say, why is the GMT so much more expensive? If they can get you that watch for $700, limited edition, lacquer dial, and then the GMT is almost double the price. That's a giveaway watch. I'm shocked that sold or didn't sell out even faster.
Yeah, Christopher Ward's probably the most transparent about their pricing. They have this 3 times multiple that they use, so it's whatever the part of the cost and everything. That the cost of making the watch is a third of the cost, and then it's the other bits that are around it as well. So they actually break it down. But yeah, it's amazing price, similar to that Sealander.
Yeah.
Yep. The whole blue dial thing, I know a lot of people were griping about colors and stuff, but I'm going to defend blue dials because, doing 20 years in the Navy, I was always on the East Coast. Unfortunately, I never got to do a Westpac. I always wanted to. That's probably better that I didn't, but I've been as far north as the Arctic Circle and as far south as, off the eastern coast of Africa. And water really takes so many different hues of blue. And there are certain brands that really, I don't know if they look at pictures of water, if they've been somewhere, but there's certain, and this blue is one of those blues where there are times you will see it's maybe 6 feet, but then it drops to like 15, 20 feet. And it just gets a little darker and you see that color gradient. And, Seiko does that with their Save the Oceans and these ones. And I appreciate the color variation on a dial when they do the blue instead of the stark, because those ones we just saw, the Bamford watches, like the whole stark contrast, which is weird because I like Zen, but the whole stark color contrast with these brighter colors, I don't dig, because to me it's very artificial. And this right here is just, you get some shadowing along the edge of the dial, get some depth, and it's not using a chapter ring to give it to you. And I'm sure in the sun, that thing is just beautiful.
Yeah, Jason, I'm 100% with you. Bright dials are nice, but if you don't I like the fume to just kind of take away some of the shock effect. And I said you can wear that watch any day, and it's not a blingy piece, kind of like an OP turquoise. It really goes well.
Yeah.
Yep. And the dial balance too is, I think, really nice. It's got the newer Christopher Ward logo, which some people like, I guess, and some people don't. But I like the date at the 6 with the 2 lines above it. I think it's nicely balanced also, in addition to a great price and a great color.
Yeah, it was interesting for me that I think someone else mentioned earlier, sort of the contrast in price with the GMT. When one of the things that I found interesting is this one's the cheaper one. It's the one I much prefer. I really think this one works better than the GMT. The GMT one looks like they were designing another watch, and then at the last minute they were told, "Hey, we've got a special on sapphire bezels. Can you squeeze a sapphire bezel on this?" And they've gone, "Oh yeah, sure, we can fit that in." And then someone said, "Oh, it looks a bit too much. I got 50 fathoms. Okay, so we'll make it a bit thinner."
Well, I asked you a question, Pete. Christopher Ward has that other GMT that looks like a Rolex Explorer, right? Too.
Yeah.
And
it's certainly.
I love that watch, man. I love that watch, but I won't buy it because I feel like it looks so much like. I love this watch, man. I love this watch, but I want it every single day, it just drives me crazy because now I got to save up 10 times the amount of money if I'm lucky to get the Explorer 2, which is like my attainable grail.
I'm actually in this weird position of I can't buy this one because it's too Rolex.
Yeah.
I think it looks better than the Rolex.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've reviewed this Sealander watch, and the case is obviously completely different because they uses that light catcher case. I mean, I'm biased here because I'm like a huge fan of anything that most of what Christopher Ward does. I recently reviewed one of their bronze ones that I wasn't crazy about, but in general, I just love everything about the way that they design. So, Jason, I think the only thing, it does look a little bit like an Explorer with the bezel, but I think the case, the case is off. The proportions of the case is off. I feel like I've said too much now, haven't I? I look like I'm defending.
No, I appreciate your opinion, Sam. I mean, I only asked Pete because he brought up, how he's not really a homage guy, and I know that everybody else on the panel, we kind of have differing opinions on. Like, there's different percentages, right? Like, maybe like there's a 20% homage or a 30 or 40 or whatever that we're willing to accept. And it's just, I've always just wanted a kick butt white dial GMT that if I wore on a vacation or if I went somewhere cool, just gives me that whole vibe of I'm doing something cool. I don't know how to explain it.
Let me throw the picture that Sam just put up there. Would you consider the white with either a leather band or a rubber band? Because just that breakup where it's not on a metal bracelet changes the watch for me. Because when I see that, my eye just says Rolex Explorer 2.
Bro, I'm the gray NATO king. Like,
but when I see that, I don't. And so you could put that on a NATO just like that, and to me, that's a completely different watch. So, it doesn't hurt my feelings as much like that. There, I say beautiful, great, and you can save yourself 10 times the price. But on the metal, I can't do the metal.
That's why I love Patrick. He sold me.
Yeah, and you could get, and they showed that blue dial as well. So if you really wanted to go,
the blue one's nice too.
But that NATO actually, I love that. That's beautiful.
Yeah, and it's made out of ocean plastic as well. That's their tide strap. So they actually.
Let me see the blue one again, Sam.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's the green as well. While we're talking about it, so you got the green. You can green Rolex it up with me.
I'm good.
And then you can or the blue and I've got a blue. My blue dial Christopher Ward is a similar blue to this, and I adore it. My Trident C60 Trident Pro. And the thing with Christopher Ward is the hands are finished. They're brushed and polished, so they're highly finished. The hands and the indices. The minute hand perfectly covers the indices as it goes over it. It's their design language, this simplicity that all works together is just very pleasing to the eye on a Christopher Ward watch. The indices they're raised up almost because they have these different finishes. So I'm a huge Christopher Ward fan.
I'll do some studying.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, okay. Well, we've got time for another watch, and then let us know in the comments if you've got any suggestions of watches that we've not touched on. But excuse me, I know Pete, you've just bought an IWC watch, so we'd love to hear about that one. But I saw this like big Pilot Perpetual Calendar edition that it's just crazy with that. The obviously a sapphire dial perpetual calendar on there. I don't know if anybody else had seen this one.
Yeah.
I refuse to ever own any kind of calendar watch. They're just too much like hard work. It's not that I don't like them, and I love the complication, but they're just so hard to work. You've got to keep them wound, and if they don't, then you've got to often take them to, say, a watchmaker to get them reset. But this one could sway me. I can't afford it.
Todd, yours is your Buckaroo is a annual calendar.
Yeah, my Buckaroo is an annual calendar, correct, and it's fairly easy to set. So I don't keep it wound because I rotate so many watches. But yeah, when it's time to wear it again, it's not really a big problem to do that because of the way they engineered it. But a perpetual calendar is a little bit different animal. And I know some of the high end ones, like you were saying, Pete, if they get out of sync or something like that, it's a huge issue. You got to bring it to a specialist and have them set it somehow. But the Buckaroo is easy.
So how do you? I've never seen I don't know if I have seen a perpetual.
My wife has a Zeppelin perpetual calendar moon phase. She loves that thing, and that thing is, I'm going to say it, probably 100 times less than this, and is way more attractive than this thing.
So when you buy it, they have to set the time there and then, do they? And then you have to just basically keep it wound yourself. Otherwise, because if it goes out of sync for more than a couple of days, you're just going to have to keep cycling the watch around.
My wife's book did a pretty good job explaining. I mean, it's a Zeppelin, but did a pretty good job explaining on how to set it. This just looks like if you were a pilot and you were in the movie Tron. This is what you would.
And it really depends on the brand. Like H. Moser does a really simple perpetual, or really all they have to set is the leap year indicator. And so if they've got a simple leap year indicator, the only difference is in 110 years. I think it's on 2100. I guess the whole math of leap year is that there's a full day that over 1,000 years we have to catch up for, and
you better be ready.
So technically your watch will go out of sync in 2100. And so that's why they keep saying, you got to make sure that you stay up to date. On a watch like that, where it actually has a 2022 and it actually has a full year date, that's when you get into trouble and there's a whole bunch of mess, because I don't think it's easy to set that year. Mm-hmm. And so if you accidentally set the year wrong, you're screwed until a watchmaker sets it back.
The worst is if you go too far forward. You've basically you've got one of two options. You can spin it forward like 150,000 times, or you put the watch aside and you wait for time to catch up to you.
Put it in a drawer and wait 4 months. Yeah.
And your calendars are much easier. Much easier, without having the year involved in an annual calendar, it's much easier to deal with.
So annual calendar I would do, but perpetual is kind of off the table.
And as I said, I think IWC is famous for kind of having a very finicky, perpetual calendar system, where some of the other brands just aren't as finicky.
I've never seen an IWC that I've found attractive, if I'm being honest.
Jason, 100%. It is probably my least favorite brand.
And when we went and saw Top Gun Maverick, I was like, oh yeah, that warrant officer really is busting out at IWC's.
Well, Pete, you just bought a.
What did you buy, Pete?
Yeah. What was? Yeah.
Hold 1 second. I'll just get it.
Is it the IWC stopwatch that the warrant officer used in Top Gun Maverick? Because that's what I want.
This is actually a very special edition one.
Oh. Sorry. So I'll see. Oh God, I can't get this to work.
Oh, there you go.
That one's not bad.
Yeah, that's the Mark 15, 14.
Yeah. It's
Pete, you taught me something today.
It's the IWC Pilot's Automatic RAF edition.
Okay.
So
nice.
it's a I won't say a one-off. There's probably about 30 of them in the world. IWC collaborated with a tanker pilot from the RAF to design a watch for watch geeks in the Air Force to celebrate our 100th anniversary. Yeah, that's it.
Nice.
So you can only buy it if you are a serving member or a former serving member of the RAF. You have to put your order in through a guy up at 35 Squadron, and he checks all your credentials and then passes them to IWC. So ceramic case.
Nice.
New the sort of, I'll call it in-house. the in-house manufactured movement. Yeah, it's really cool.
Does it have a
Yeah,
cool
I
case
love these
back,
hands.
Pete? Is there like a special logo in the case back or anything?
I haven't really looked. Yes, there is.
Well,
So if
Yeah.
there's an image there, if not, I got to be careful.
Oh no,
In
no,
fact,
that's cool.
I'd rather
You can
not
just-
show you my case back because it's got my
Got it.
service number
No.
engraved on the back.
Is it
I
like a
take back
picture of
what
the
I
Royal
said.
Australian Air
Yeah.
Force logo? Okay.
Yeah.
I take back what I said. I don't like any IWCs, but I actually like that one.
Yeah, I like
Yeah,
that one too.
it's the hands on that one for me that does it. To be honest, the normal IWC hands are always give me a pop. My dad's got an IWC watch
Yeah,
as
it's
well.
ceramic and a relatively simple design. You know,
Yeah.
I like it because
And that's what
IWCs
me and Sam have talked about that before. Like, you get all these companies that try to do this tactical stuff. And it's like, no, that's an actual tactical watch. Like if you were flying a freaking airplane and you were going a couple of hundred knots, because that's what pilots do. They go knots. You look at it and actually tell what's going on, not trying to figure out the perpetual calendar on it while your plane's crashing.
Yeah.
You know?
It is interesting what sort of watches actual pilots wear. It's all over the place. So I think there's the kind of watches that pilots like to wear when they're in the crew room is quite different to the kind of watches they wear like when they're flying. But
that's a good video.
Congrats on getting it too.
Yeah. Well, we've got one from the one last one from the audience. I don't know if we've covered this one before, but I know Chris and I have talked about it. It's the Longines Ultra Chron, which it's been out for a while now, but a lot of people seem to be talking about this one. So it's again a vintage reissue, and I thought it was a high frequency quartz, but it isn't. When I first saw it, I think it was a high frequency quartz, but actually high frequency mechanical. That's is it chronometer certified as well?
Ultra chronometer certified. They've actually gone for it's inside COSC. I think it's plus or minus like 1 second and 3 seconds or something.
Yeah.
Oh, so wow. they test it to like inside. It's a reduced from the COSC range.
I read something a long time ago that said ultra is one of those words you can use in American advertising that you don't have to quantify. Like it's ultra American cheese. Like, and there's nothing different about it. I don't know if that's the case here, but just
like pharmaceutical grade, I think is another one. There's some weird ones, isn't there?
Or all natural. There's no definition for all natural. You can say it about whatever you want. It's arsenic in it, but it's all natural.
All natural.
Perfectly fine.
So all natural lead.
I like this though. I like this watch a lot.
Bill K says
it's a little pricey, but I like it.
Within 2 seconds.
Sam doesn't like it because there's no date.
Yeah, I don't love it because it's got no date.
I like it better that way.
I told I was telling the guy in Rolex that you all teased me about the date and that being in my 40s now, it's I'm on a borrowed time, till I can not see it any longer. So
I just want to say for the record, I really do support you with your date, love. I think they could have done different hash marks on the bezel insert than red. I mean, I don't know how it shows in real life, but on the picture, it's really hard to see.
Yeah.
I see this one in the flesh because the press photos aren't winning me over, but it might look better in real life.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. Yeah, they seem to be all computer renders, don't they? Like the Breitling was. Well, we've come to the end of the show. We're down in the last few minutes. Thank you everyone for watching. I don't know, any more last words from the panel before we hop off?
Jeremy Rice likes this one. Just want to give him his little note.
Yeah, thanks everyone for watching. So, I think somebody mentioned before, good time to get on a Rolex waiting list. I think you're right there. I waited about 3 months for mine, which I thought was pretty good going. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you everyone for joining. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time on Casual Watch Talk Live.
Bye, everybody.
Have a good